The YouTube shorts that I posted recently, how to manifest your French fluency. I honestly didn't expect that reaction. Seeing the responses made me realize something. A lot of us are not actually struggling with French. We're struggling with what learning French or any other language that we're learning. The frustration, the self-doubt, the pressure to sound smart, and the fear of being exposed. So in this video, I'm going to talk about manifestation in a very grounded way. It's not as a trend and it's not wishful thinking, but as something that quietly shapes how far we actually go in language learning. And if you stay until the end and actually do this with me, I want you to notice something. This will not just change how you learn French. This will also change how you show up in uncomfortable situations, like in conversations, at work, or in new environments. Because once you start shifting your mindset and your pattern here, you start seeing it everywhere. If you're new here, hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Rachel Fluency. This channel is where I share my real language journey, especially the parts people don't usually talk about, the mindset shifts, the emotional blocks, and the moments where you want to give up, and what actually helps you keep going. If you're learning French or any other language and you want something honest and practical, please subscribe. It genuinely encourages me to keep going on this channel, and we can walk this language journey together. Alright, let's talk about manifestation. The word itself already makes some people feeling a little bit uncomfortable because they will think, oh, this is kind of like spiritual stuff and religious stuff, I don't know. And some people think it just means that you really want something badly. And some people also think that it means forcing yourself to believe in something, even though deep down in your heart you don't actually believe in yourself. But actually, those two things are really different. Wanting something badly often comes with tension, and forcing belief often comes with pressure as well. And neither of those helps you show up consistently. You see the logic here? Because tension makes you judge yourself. You judge your mistake, you judge your grammar, you judge your accent, you judge your speed, and then slowly you start to avoid the things that you feel bad, but actually those help you improve and progress. So that's why a lot of people withdraw at this point. Instead of trying, they would rather label themselves like, I'm not talented, I'm not good at language learning. And most of the time, it's actually a kind of protection. Protection of your face, protection of your ego, protection of being failed. Psychologists don't use the word manifestation, but they talk about identity, self-concept and expectation, but actually they mean the same mechanism. We don't just act based on what we want, we act based on who we believe we are. So if deep down you believe that you are not a good language learner, and your brain will start to look for the proof for you. For example, you hesitate, you overanalyze, and you speak less. And every time if anything goes wrong, and your brain will start to tell you, see, I knew it, I'm not good enough. Now it proves it, and it's true. And here's something really important to notice. That moment, that thought, is also manifestation. It's just in negative direction. And that behavior created exactly the same outcome that you were expecting. Do you see the loop here? But on the other hand, if someone says, nope, I'm someone who speaks and I'm not afraid of mistake and I improve, and even the same mistake will make a really different result. And the mistakes would actually become the data because they tell you where you are. And these data show you what's to work on, and they prove you're actually in the process, in the middle of it, not out of it. And bear in mind that this doesn't only apply to language learning, it also applies to your confidence at work. Think about it. If you walk into a meeting room and then you're already thinking that you're going to sound stupid, what you're gonna do? You speak less, you be quiet, you put your head down, and then you leave the meeting room and then say, good thing I didn't speak too much, I'm not embarrassing myself in front of my boss. And then what's the outcome? You never get a chance to shine in front of your boss because you were afraid. But what's the outcome? Because you didn't speak, you never gave yourself a chance to shine, and your brain takes that as a proof. See, I'm not good at expressing my opinions. And the belief creates behavior, and behavior creates the evidence. Moving countries is another powerful example. I could honestly make a whole video just on this. Since moving to the UK, I've heard so many stories of people feeling like they are being discriminated against, and sometimes Yes, discrimination exists, but sometimes what's happening is more subtle. If you already believe people will reject you, you start interpreting everything through that lens. For example, a short reply becomes rudeness, there will be a misunderstanding and you took it wrong, and the cultural differences becomes the proof, and slowly you stop enjoying where you live. And then some people withdraw, some people feel lonely, and that loneliness becomes the evidence your brain was looking for. And language learning works exactly the same way. A lot of people think language learning is about talent or about which side of the brain you are better at. Some people say girls are better at languages, some say it's logical, and some say it's systematic. But in my experience, the biggest difference is emotional tolerance and self-discipline, because language learning requires repetition and consistency and the willingness to sound different from who you are in your first language, because every time you speak, you are exposing yourself, your intelligence, your personality, your identity, and you might think, I'm not going to look dumb if I say something wrong. I don't want people to see my weakness, and people think I'm fluent, but I'm actually not. So you choose silence. But there's no 0 to 100 path. Between 0 and 100, there is actually 1 to 99. There are half-finished sentences, like the moments where you know exactly what you want to say, but the words just didn't come out. And there are also conversations where you replay everything afterwards and think, I could have said that better. And in that space, there is a version of you that's still becoming, a version of you that speaks before feeling ready, and a version of you that sounds different from who you are in your first language. That version is not wrong, it's necessary. So here's where we shift gears. It's one thing to understand this intellectually. It's another thing to notice how it shows up in your own behavior. What I like to do next is walk you through a few practices, and you don't have to do everything. Even one small shift is enough to start changing your relationship with the language. I especially hope you stay for the speaking parts because that's usually where people recognize themselves. Let's continue. Before we jump into the practical part, I want to say this clearly. You don't need to do all of these practices perfectly. You don't need to do all of them today. And you definitely don't need to turn this into another thing you should be good at. The only thing I want you to keep in mind is this. We are not trying to become fluent after watching one video. We're trying to shift how you relate to the process, because when that shifts, progress stops feeling like a fight. So the first thing is journaling. I know if you search how to journal on YouTube, you'll find thousands of videos, but there's actually no specific video that teaches you how to journal in a way that helps your language learning psychologically. Yes, journaling in a language you're learning helps. Of course it does. For example, sometimes I journal in French, so the more I write in French, the more my writing in French better. That's a formula, nothing to question about. But that's not what I'm focusing on here. What I care about is how journaling changes the way you relate to the language. And before we even talk about what to write, I want to talk about the tools. And I want to be very honest. The tools matter. For me, I love my Moleskine journal. And no, this is not an effort. I wouldn't mind if there's any opportunity. I'm saying this simply because I genuinely love this brand. I never bought one myself before. I used to think, why would I spend money on a notebook? I can just use whatever I have at home. Something from Amazon or Sainsbury's is fine. But I was totally wrong. I got my first Moleskine journal in my life in 2024 as a birthday present from my husband. I bet he didn't know it would change my life. He just knew I love a Japanese character on the cover and he bought it for me. What he didn't know, and what I didn't know either, was that beyond a character, having a journal I truly like would wake something up in me. That journal is beautiful to me and it makes me happy. When I see it, I want to open it, and that alone changed everything. I also love beautiful stationery, especially from Japan and Hong Kong, like the pens, stickers, correction tapes. Every time I go back to Asia, I stock up a lot. I'm sorry, but I genuinely can't find any stationery I love here in the UK or Europe. Every time I travel back to Hong Kong or Japan, I come back with a whole bag of stationery. Alright, enough talking about stationery. What's so important is that is not only about aesthetics. These things make me want to sit down and they make me want to use them. They lower the resistance and they make starting easier. So please really choose something you like to start with a new habit. Something that makes you happy, and these are not decorations, they are tools and they matter because they help you begin. Now about journaling itself, I'm not going to give you a long list of rules, but there's just one and only one rule I want you to remember. You write as if no one will ever see this and no one cares, because that's true, no? No one is going to read your journal. The only person who could judge you is you, and you're not going to do that here. And let me tell you why this rule is so important. It's not about embarrassment. The real problem is this: if you're afraid of being judged, even by an imaginary reader, you will polish too much. You'll overthink, you'll edit before you even write, and you filter your thoughts. And then what comes out is no longer authentic. It's no longer the voice of your heart. But journaling is not about sounding wise. It's not about being positive and being correct. Journaling is about hearing what your heart and your soul are actually saying. And that matters, because only when you make decisions that follow your heart do you become a genuinely happy person. And only then can you walk your language journey with real energy and power. So when you write, don't try to sound wise, and don't try to sound optimistic, and don't try to sound good. Just be honest and don't analyze. Stop thinking too much. So bear in mind that it's not your brain leading, it's just your hand moving, and you write with your heart, not your head. And you don't have to do all of these at once. You can pause the video and do this little exercise with me together, or you can watch first and then you do it by yourself. So here's the prompt number 1. What am I actually afraid will happen if I speak imperfectly? Not what you should be afraid of, but what you actually think. Write it exactly as it comes. Don't soften it. Don't justify it. Just write, and then stop. And here's prompt number 2. When was the first time I remember feeling embarrassed about speaking a language? It might be English, it might be French, it might be something from school. Write the scene. What happened? Who was there? How did it make you feel? You're not blaming anyone. You're just noticing where the story started. Prompt number 3. What kind of person do I become when I don't speak? This one is powerful. Do you become quieter, smaller, more cautious? How does not speaking change how you show up in life? Just observe. Prompt number 4. If no one could judge me for 1 week, how would I use the language differently? Would you speak more? Send voice messages? Join in conversation? This question shows you the version of you that already exists, just hidden under fear. Prompt number 5, and is the last one. If I were already fluent in the language today, what would I do with it? Not how fluent you are, not how good you sound. What would you use the language for? Who would you talk to? Where would you go? What would you read, watch, or listen to? This brings you out of fear and back to purpose. Well done! You're already doing something that many people never do. And that's it! So you don't have to reread everything and you don't have to correct your grammar. Just close your journal. What matters is not perfect writing, but you've just told yourself the truth. Now let's move on to the vision board. And I want to clear something up straight away. It's not about visualizing a perfect version of yourself and not about sounding flawless or the moments that being dramatic, because that kind of visualization often backfires. It actually creates distance and your brain looks at that image and thinks, that's not me. And when your brain feels distance, it resists. What does it mean? So it means imagining French and French culture as just part of your life. Nothing special, nothing impressive, and just present. Now let me explain why this works in a very grounded way. Don't worry about it. Your brain is constantly filtering information, and there is a part of your brain whose job is to decide what matters and what should you pay attention to. And it does that based on familiarity and relevance. So when something feels familiar, your brain treats it as safe. But on the other hand, when something feels distant or unrealistic, your brain starts to treat it as threatening or irrelevant. This is why imagining yourself giving a perfect French speech doesn't help most people, because it's too far away, too different from your current identity. But when you repeatedly expose your brain to ordinary, believable scene, something changes. Your brain starts thinking, oh, that's normal, this is something we do, and this belongs to us. And once something feels normal, you stop overthinking it. And that's the key. A vision board is not about motivation, it's about your identity being familiarized. You're slowly teaching your brain that this is who I am, this is how I live, and this is not special, and this is so normal. And when your brain accepts that, your behavior starts changing without forcing it. And that's manifestation, not as magic, but as alignment. So now I'm going to make my own vision board for French fluency. If you want to do it together with me, you can. If not, you can watch it first and then you can do it by yourself quietly. The tool I always use is Canva. It's simple, smart, and easy to use. Because of my YouTube channel, I pay for a subscription. But honestly, if this is just for personal use, the free version is more than enough. Alright, on y va. What to put on the vision board? When you're choosing images, don't think goals. It's a trap many people fall into. A vision board is not primarily a goal-setting tool. It can be used that way, but that's not its main purpose here. Instead, you can think about everyday scenes, like moments you imagine you'll be doing, being, feeling, and reacting to if you've already become that version of yourself. So you can choose images that represent everyday conversations and calm environments and belongings, or the routine use of the language. For example, someone sitting in a bistro à la France and reading the French menu and chatting casually with a restaurant owner. What would you love to eat? Someone who travels to France regularly. What would you bring? How do you feel on the plane heading there? Probably excited, not anxious. So someone reading a French book recommended by a French bookshop owner, and he tells you in French that this is one of the top-rated books recently. Someone walks through an art museum in France. You don't know everything about artworks, but you can read what's written and you understand enough. Someone watching a French classic movie, not understanding everything, and being okay with it. These are the moments where French exists quietly. Then ask yourself this: what does the French language and French culture look like when it's just part of my life? For me, that looks like this: decorating my house in a French way, collecting French-style antique candle holders, also hanging Parisian pictures on the wall, eating slowly, appreciating foods and drinks, bringing arts to feed into my everyday life here in the UK. Not a performance, not milestones, but just life. You can apparently add the words if you want, but keep them grounded. Not something like, I'm fluent in French. Oh my god, this is a bit too old-fashioned. More like, French is part of my everyday life. I speak even when it's imperfect, or I don't wait to feel ready before I give it a go. You can even write it in French. For example, la langue et la culture française font partie de ma vie de tous les jours. The reason behind is very simple, because your brain moves towards what feels familiar. When French feels normal, your nervous system stops resisting it. Wow, pretty much done. I'll keep modifying this over time. I may save it as my MacBook wallpaper or resize it for my phone because honestly, I look at my phone far more than my laptop. You can do whatever works best for you. And actually, to make this even easier for you to start, I'm going to make this vision board into a free digital file. If you want something quick and simple, you can just download it and use it straight away. If you're here watching this video, you're probably someone like me, a French learner, a francophile, someone who loves the language and the culture. So the chances are our vision of French life overlaps in some way. That's why I'm very happy to share my vision board with you. I'll put the download link in the description board below. You can use it as it is, or change it, or you can add your own images, your own words, and make it yours. The point is not about perfection. The point is about to start. Now, everything we've done so far has been quite gentle, like reflective and internal, but the next part is different. And it's usually the part where people feel uncomfortable because this is where we start speaking like no one cares. It really took me a long time to get used to it, and I'm sure this is the part most people want to skip, not because it's hard, but because it's exposing. I want you to film yourself speaking French, just on your phone, not for YouTube, not for Instagram, not for anyone else, but just for yourself, just like how you did for your journaling. Alright, I'm going to do this with you. If you want, you can pause the video and do it at the same time. Or you can watch me first. I'm going to speak for about 1 minute, no correction, and just talking. For example, you can take this as a listening exercise, see how much you understand. You might say, aujourd'hui, j'ai travaillé toute la journée et ce matin, je me suis levé un peu fatigué, mais ça va et c'est normal. J'ai bu un café comme toujours. Et après, j'ai commencé à travailler sur mes vidéos YouTube. En ce moment, je pense beaucoup à mon français. Ce soir, j'aimerais me détendre un peu. Peut-être lire quelques jours en français ou regarder un film français, même si je ne comprends pas tout. Voilà, c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. So the whole conversation is that you don't need to be interesting in your content, but you just need to keep going. Now as you're speaking, notice something. There will be a voice appear and it says things like, this sounds bad, you should stop, and this is embarrassing, and that voice is not the truth. It's your nervous system trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe from feeling exposed. And here's the important part. When your voice appears, don't stop. You can pause if you need to, but finish the sentence. Because every time you do that, you're teaching your body something new. That speaking is uncomfortable, but not dangerous. That you can survive it. This is what people mean by training your nervous system. It's not wishful thinking. It's repetition, it's experience, and it's your body learning that nothing bad actually happens when you speak imperfectly. And if you want, you can delete the video straight away. Why not? There's no harm. So if 1 minute a day can help you progress more than 10 lessons, why not? A lot of people learn a language for years and they know the grammar well, they have a huge vocabulary bank, but they never use it. So they never overcome the fear, and this is how you break that cycle. I want to share a video clip with you. It was filmed last summer and I still remember it very clearly because that was the first time I ever decided to speak French in front of a camera. Not just for myself, but I actually went one step further. I turned it into a video on YouTube.
Si vous êtes nouveau ici, je suis un Anglais britannique vivant actuellement en Angleterre et j'ai grandi en parlant 6 langues. Sur cette chaîne, je partage des conseils utiles et mes points de vue sur l'apprentissage des langues, les cultures, l'immigration et les leçons de vie. Si l'un de ces sujets vous intéresse, abonnez-vous avant de commencer.
And when you watch it, you'll probably think, oh, she sounds quite fluent, or she spoke slowly but clearly. But what you didn't see is what happened behind the scene. That video took literally thousands of takes. I repeated the same sentences again and again. I stopped, I deleted, and I edited heavily. And only after all of that, that was one take I felt comfortable enough to share. There's a Cantonese saying that describes this perfectly. 台上1分鐘，台下10年功. Literally, it means what looks effortless is the result of years of practice. And this is why I want to show you this clip. Not to impress you, but to remind you of something very important. Fluency doesn't appear suddenly. What you see on screen, that calm, slow, confidence version, is built on many awkward, uncomfortable, unseen moments. And those moments don't mean you're bad at language. They mean you're doing the work. And looking back now, I realized something. That video wasn't a result of confidence. It was the result of showing up before I felt ready, again and again until my brain stopped panicking. That's how manifestation actually works in real life. It's not magic, but it's practical. After you've done that, something interesting usually happens. You feel a bit tired, a bit exposed, almost like you've been holding your breath and just let it go. And that moment right there, that's actually the perfect moment for the next part. The final part is meditation. I want to explain why meditation actually helps with language learning in a very practical way. This is not about being spiritual and not about emptying your mind, but about how your brain learns. When you speak a foreign language, your brain often goes into what I call threat mode. I don't know if you ever felt this, but somehow your heart rate goes up and your shoulder tense and your thoughts start speeding up. It's like your body reacts before you even have time to think. And when you are in that state, speaking becomes much harder, not because you don't know the language, but because your system is under pressure. So instead of talking more about this, let's try something very simple together. If you can, just sit comfortably on your bed, on the floor, maybe with your legs crossed. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. Nothing complicated. Now I want you to imagine a very small, very ordinary moment. You're speaking French, you're not completely fluent, but you can still put some basic French words out. You don't sound as expressive as you would in your mother language. You don't sound perfect, but you're calm. Your shoulders are relaxed. You're not rushing. You're not apologizing for your accent. You're just continuing. And notice how that feels. Not exciting, not impressive, just manageable. That feeling, that this is okay feeling, is important. Because when speaking starts to feel sustainable, you stop fighting it. Progress doesn't come from dramatic breakthroughs. It comes from moments that feel repeatable, quietly. I hope it feels good and relaxing for you. I know how easy it is to turn all of this into a checklist, like I should journal, I should visualize, I should practice speaking, but that mindset is exactly what we are moving away from. Think about it like this. You don't become someone new by doing everything once. You change by doing one small thing gently again and again. This is how identity shifts, not through intensity, but through familiarity. There's a book called Feeling is the Secret. It's actually a best-selling book, and once I read it, I really understood why. What makes it so powerful is that it doesn't talk about manifestation as positive thinking or forcing yourself to believe something you don't really feel yet. It talks about emotional state, what shapes your life is, not just what you want or what you say to yourself, but the feeling you keep returning to again and again. When I read it, I honestly felt like it completely shifted my mindset, and over time, my life as well. I downloaded the Chinese version on my Kobo e-reader and finished it in about 2 days because it's not a long book anyway. I also really love my Kobo because it's wallet size, very light, and I carry it with me everywhere. So whenever I'm idle, instead of dumb scrolling on my phone, checking other social media updates, I read a few pages. It's still a screen, but it feels very different. It feels intentional and it makes me feel really good. And I highly recommend that you try it. And the book connects so well with everything we've just done here in this video. I'll put the link of the book in the description box if you are curious so you can check it out easily. So this is the ebook that I bought from Hong Kong, but you can easily buy it in the UK or the Europe, or actually this is worldwide. So this book, I bought it and I can download the book because the reason I buy Kobo is because it has a really big database of Chinese books that I really love it. But if you prefer it to be like English books, and there's also plenty of choices for you to choose. And here's the part I really want you to hear. If you get used to this cycle of practicing like journaling, visualizing, speaking, and then calming your body, it doesn't just help your French. It starts changing how you approach everything. You become someone who believes things are possible. Not because you are suddenly fearless, but because you've learned that discomfort doesn't mean danger. The mindset makes you more confident, more resilient, and more intentional with your life. And that's why this works, not just for language learning, but for becoming the kind of person who trusts themselves. If you stay until now, that already says something about you. If you want support with that, I've made a 10 minutes guided meditation you can use daily. This is to help your body associate speaking French with safety instead of fear. Again, I'll link it below and you can check it here or there in the description box. Oh my god, I'm kind of proud of myself because this is really the longest video I have ever made. But all of these steps, tips, and real life examples are from the bottom of my heart and worked really well for me. So I really want to share them with you all. You've watched the video until now and you're absolutely brilliant. You should give yourself a round of applause. And if this video resonated with you, please subscribe and share with your peers so we can keep walking this journey together, honestly, imperfectly, and without pressure. I'll see you in the next video. A bientôt!